Hello everybody, I'm back with your Litho 101 part 2. So yesterday I showed you guys kind of the basic ways of just cutting the litho panel and sizing it off for your panel lines drawn onto your surface. So that's the easy part. I've gone ahead with the TA152 here and I have pretty much got the vast majority of all the panels done. There's a couple on the outer wing panels that have some fairly large sections that I don't have material large enough for, so I have to pick that up tomorrow from a supplier. Hopefully they'll suffice. If not, I'll end up having to piece pieces together. But anyways, so I'll do those tomorrow. And those 3 panels on each outer wing panel, so 6 total outer wing panels are done other than those 6 panels. The center section here becomes a little more complicated. The Focke-Wulf series of airplanes all have these aft scoops, gun hood bulges. That's more of a bulge, it's not a scoop on them, and you can see it's kind of triangular with the forward cross section as you're looking on the forward of it, and then as you look from the side, it's kind of triangular as well with the top of it just cut off, so it kind of, I guess, like a trapezoid shape or something. It's really weird, and then the top section's got curved edges and very difficult to make. So that's kind of what I'm going to show you here today. I'm going to show you how to make this particular bulge, and then there's another one right up here that's actually for the axle to go into. And originally you would think it's for the tire, but the tire clears the wing skin, but for some reason the axle pokes through, so they had to put another bulge here in the front. It's a really weird airplane. So basic tools you'll need are, of course, your litho plate, a torch, something that I forgot. Pretty easy. So the little rounded edge rolling pin from a wooden dowel I showed you yesterday on the first video, you'll need one of those and a paintbrush handle. This is just an El Cheapo 4-inch chip brush handle that I just cut off the brush, and it works really well. Dish soap also comes in handy for the beginning stages of working with litho, so I'll show you that trick, and then I'll show you not working with it. So let me get a little scrap piece, I'll show you with a dish soap. I'll go grab some soap. This side, please. So when you're working with litho, it's got this very springy, the little guy's out here, so you have to deal with the little talking there. But you see, it's very springy. Oh, it's very, it goes back to its shape very, very easily. Let's go inside, buddy. Say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, now go inside so I can go watch a movie. So it just springs right back. It doesn't work very well for forming stuff. And you can see it's gray on this side, silver on that side. This is actually the side they do the printing on. This side they don't use at all. So in order to get it to where you can work it, you have to anneal it. So one way is you can take dish soap, squirt a little bit on there, use your finger, and just wipe it on, kind of like a nice thin layer. Alright, once you get your dish soap on there, depending on how much of the panel you got to do, a pair of pliers is always helpful to hold it, unless you want to burn yourself. So I use just a pair of needle nose pliers with no teeth on it. So hold it, get your torch fired up, and then what you want to do is from the back side, you want to heat the back side of it. You can watch how the dish soap burns away. And once you get kind of that nice little golden brown color, that's the color you're looking for. You want that uniform over everything. And you'll notice all the smoke coming off. This is why I don't like the dish soap method. It works very well for you to get an indication of what it colored and you need the metal to look like. But then you have to go wash the dish soap residue off. And you can see the panel's kind of warping as you heat it up, and it gets, you're not heating it very uniform, so it begins warping and everything on you. But That's the dish soap method. You can see on the back side, it kind of takes on a pinkish hue. But once it cools off here in just a moment, which it doesn't take very long, you can watch. You bend it and it stays that way. So that's how you can do it with the dish soap method, which works pretty well. That's what I learned how to do it on. The other way is you just don't use soap. So in this case, you can see it's got some printing on the back of it. The printing actually works in your favor. So we get our torch and we'll heat. You notice I'm doing the printed side of it now. And as you heat it up, you'll watch the printing of it. Some of the colors are a little more, they change colors a little easier to notice than others. So it becomes very easy to tell when you have it the right heat. And you also notice that pink hue is kind of building up on it. It's got kind of a grayish blue to it. And the more you heat it up, the more that the grayish blue turns into kind of a pink color. You just do this across the whole thing. You just have to bear with me. It takes quite a while to do a big panel. And when you're working really complex shapes like this this gun bulge, you might have to do this 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You just keep doing it, and every time you do it, you re-soften the metal. But every time you work it with your tools, you actually harden the metal. So as you work it, you actually work hardening. So it kind of goes back to its original temper, or close to it. So you really have to be cognizant with really complex curves to make sure you don't keep working it and end up tearing the metal, which you'll do quite often. I'll probably do it on this time, to be honest. It's a very labor-intensive project and process doing the lithoplating, but it just, the results of it are just amazing. Alright, you see I'm just holding bare hands now, but here I am about 2/3 to halfway to 2/3 across the panel, and I'm already starting to feel the heat on my hand. So here soon I'll switch over to holding it with pliers. Woo! Now it got warm. You know, I'm just kind of moving the torch here in circles. Just kind of keep it constantly moving. You don't want to focus on one spot, and I'll show you why here in a moment. At this corner, if you focus on one spot, it just burns right away. It just burns right through. So it's really thin metal. It's only about, I think average is 4 to 8 thousandths, and occasionally you'll find a piece that's about 12. So it's really, really thin. Another substitute for litho that you can use is aluminum roof flashing. You can get that at pretty much any home improvement store. I haven't personally tried that stuff, but I hear it works just as well, if not a little nicer at times. So, but if you're looking for lithoplate, just Google offset printing in your area. And these guys, I mean, once they use the sheet, they just throw it away. I haven't had a source in quite a few years, and here in Florida, I finally found one. And the biggest panel they have is almost 2 foot by 4 foot. And they won't give them to me, but he said he would sell it to me for the same price of what they pay for what they get from the scrap guy. The scrap guy gives them 5 cents for a 2 foot by 4 foot piece, basically. Compared to, I think it's $1.20 per sheet new. Alright, so that panel is all annealed down, and we'll kind of let it sit for a minute. Sometimes with these big panels, you might have to do that two times before you'll get it to where it'll work really well, but this one seems to be pretty good. And you also need some masking tape. Again, the cheap stuff. Don't get anything crazy expensive. It looks like this panel may be just a little too small. Because this panel has to go from the back of this bulge all the way up here to bring it in all in one piece. The downside with this stuff is the bigger the panel, the more of a pain in the butt it is to work with. And then if you have multiple compound curves on one single panel, it becomes even more of a pain in the butt. So like this leading edge here, this leading edge with this compound bulge, Plus you have the leading edge itself, which has a slight compound curve. It's pretty straight here on the front, but it does have a little bit on the bottom around the gear door area where it wraps around. This panel is going to be very difficult to do in one piece. So sometimes it's easier just to do these separately and then just try and get your seam as tight as possible. And then when you do your mold, whatever little ridge you have there from the seam line, just get in there with some 600 or 1,000 grit paper and just sand that little ridge out and go with it that way. Okay, I just crap, I always do the wrong direction of that thing. I just re-annealed a piece of material and got the munchkin out of here so you guys can not hear him yell attack as he runs through. So I'm gonna let that cool off for just a second. Now I lost my train of thought, so I gotta figure out what I was talking to you guys about other than annealing stuff. Alright, so masking tape. Again, you want a panel that's larger than the area that you want. That way you've got room to kind of tug on it, pull and stuff, because you're going to be doing a lot of hand working to get this to fit. I like to kind of start at one spot and just work out from there. It kind of helps keep things a little more uniform. So in this case, I want to start at the highest point and I want to work down away from it. So what I'll do is I'll start here in the middle and I'll work down, and then I'll work kind of out, kind of like a starburst from that center point. So what I'll do here is I'll just kind of flatten it out at the front. Excuse me. Just gonna take a piece of masking tape, throw it on the corners, and this just kind of helps hold it in place so it doesn't shift on you too much, even though it'll still shift. Then your paint handle here, just kind of got to work it. Again, you want to try and keep the edges at a minimum. That's why I like paint handles, because you can round them to really kind of a soft wood. But it also does have a little ridge here on the front of it. So when you need to get down in the corner and make a really nice defined line, you've got that capability. So typically I use the flat of it and then the edge of the handle, just because it's already pre-rounded for you. So here I'll just start at the top of it, and I'll just start kind of rub back and forth along the highest point along either side. So it gives it a nice, smooth look to it there. Let me zoom you guys in a little bit more so you can see. So this is the top of the ridge right there of the part. And again, just kind of work your way. And a lot of this is like, you gotta play with it and just see what works, because some stuff might work one way and it might, like, you might get all the way down to the edges on here and then not be able to get it nice and smooth here. So you might have to kind of go halfway down on the sides and then go to halfway down on the front, which is probably what this will do. And then you'll notice there's little places like right here, you're gonna see a seam where it's actually gonna like fold to metal. That's where that little ridge comes in very handy, because you can sit there and just use the end of that ridge and you can just push that, or use the end of your handle, so you just kind of push where that's going to fold it out. You can see it kind of gets rid of the fold really nicely. Just keep working it. And this also helps stretch the metal really well. That's actually kind of what we're doing right now, is we're actually stretching the metal across this thing. So we're going to have a thinner metal here with the sheet thickness on the outsides. Doing this is why some of these kits I've been doing take so dang long. Like the F14, it's finally done with all the litho detailing. Finally. It took like 3 years to do that. Alright, and then we see we're going to have like a little fold right here along this one. So I'll just use this ridge, and I'll just push that little fold right out, and I'll kind of work either side of it. Which brings me to my next point. You cannot do this on something that's sheeted with 16th 3/32 inch balsa and a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce fiberglass cloth. You've got to have a very stable and strong substrate under it, or else you'll shove your tools right through the wood. In this case, this is 1/8 inch balsa sheeting with a piece of 3 ounce glass over it, so it's really strong. But it's never meant to be a flying airplane, or at least this particular wing is not meant to be flying. So weight's not too much of a concern. And you'll notice, you'll get to a point to where it'll feel like the metal's not working as easily as it was. That's when it's got to the point to where it's now work hardened too much, and you need to get back in there and anneal it again. In this case, these edges here, they're pretty much done. So they need to be re-annealed. And everything back of it on the edges is still nice and soft, but everything right here in the center get pretty hard to work with. And you'll also notice, if you can see it, some ridges kind of pop up. So I'll show those, when I pull it off, I'll show them to you. And now I'm gonna kind of come back here on the back side and do that. Again, the more you work with this stuff, the better you get with it. Your first airplane will be, you'll look at it like, holy crap, that's amazing, just because it's your first one. But once you do your second one, you're gonna look at your first one and be like, wow, that's horrible. There's just always something about working with litho that could be better. And when you get really funky shapes like this thing, I don't think anybody's ever, well, there's some people that are just really good with metal. I am so-so with it. I can kind of make it come across okay, and that's about it. So like you can see, I kind of work all the way down here, then I work along the side, then along the back side, and now I got this huge ridge right here. That's kind of what you want to avoid doing. And when I said you'll go through a lot of material doing stuff like this. So now you kind of got to just try and work that out as best you can. And this is where the tip of that, the end of your paint panel comes in. And in some instances, you can't do parts without some sort of ridge. It just, you'll spend way more time than is really worthwhile. So I got a bunch of ridges here, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off. I'm gonna re-anneal it, just so I can try and get rid of some of those. Whee! Here we go. Pretty much everywhere I've already worked, I'm gonna just go right back across it and re-anneal it. And you'll watch as it kind of heats, it kind of starts relaxing the metal a little bit. So all those stresses you worked into it kind of relieve, and the metal kind of relaxes. When you do it like this, you don't get that secondary color change, because all the color changes pretty much happened the first time you annealed it. So it's a little more difficult to determine when it's good. It really just kind of comes with working with this stuff and knowing. But there are some colors, blues and yellows for instance, they work really well for indicating when the metal has kind of gotten to that workable state again. Alright, it's still hot, I'm going to go ahead and throw it down here anyway. Then just let it cool off. Then we'll try and get rid of these ridges before we do anything else. It's not uncommon for you to spend an hour or so on a panel. When I did the cowling for the TA, I did the nose bowl portion of it where it wraps around the front. I did that in 4 sections just like they did the real thing. And I went through probably 4 pieces of material per section, and I spent a good, I don't know, day and a half doing just those 4 pieces. It becomes very difficult and just time consuming. And then when you have a section like that where it's curved in every direction, and then you have to stamp it for your rivets, because you can't stamp it beforehand because you don't know how you're going to trim it for your rivet. So then you have to make the panel and then figure out a way of holding the panel while you rivet it. It becomes very difficult, but it's kind of fun at the same time. So all right, now we'll work this and get my hands out the way so you guys can see. I'm not very ambidextrous, so you kind of have to deal with me. Look. That's what happens when tape doesn't hold, when you get the cheap stuff. Tape. Throw another piece down just to kind of help it stay. If I had an English wheel, this would probably be way easier. English wheel and a pounding hammer and all that stuff, but I don't. And then there are some parts, like this for instance, where it may just get painted and not even out of a piece of litho plate, just because of the fact that just some parts are just too dang hard and overly complicated to do. The nice thing is you can sand on this stuff and get it pretty smooth. So even if you get like some ridges like right here on this one, you can hit it with some 220 wet dry sandpaper and wet sand if you get it really smooth. Or you can just leave it there and have it add some character. You know, these things were done fairly late World War II, so in that case I can just say they were in a hurry. It was good enough. But then there are those that be like, well, it's a FW-190. That part came off an FW-190. They could have built that early in the war. Yeah, well, they could have. Not this one, though. All right. So I'm just kind of working along this one side, getting it nice and fit. You know, see how the edge has got all this like wavy, well, you can't really see it now, but see how that one's got all like a really wavy edge? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. You're going to add all this extra material out further from the center, and it's going to get this weird wavy look to it. Which is fine, because none of that really matters to us anyway, because it all gets cut off on this particular panel. Now if you've got a panel that is really wide, like up here around that nose wheel bulge, then you got a lot more work ahead of you. Because you got to get all this stuff worked out along it. That's why I said I'll probably do that nose wheel bulge as a separate part from the rest of it. Alright, let's see here. Alright, we got this one to a pretty good spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors here. I'm just going to kind of rough trim it around. And what I'm going to do is get rid of some of this extra material, so it's not quite as difficult to work with from this point on. You see, it's just, these are cheap dollar store scissors, and they just trim through this stuff like it's not even there. Like it's almost like it's paper. It's actually harder to cut cardboard than it is to cut this stuff. When you're trimming it like this, you want to make sure you don't trim it inside of your panel edge. Speaking from experience. Alright, so I'm going to retape it because it's wanting to move a lot more on me now. This dollar store cheap crap tape is pretty dang cheap. So, alright. Now, keep working around the edges here. And I've only annealed it twice so far. And this is just about done. Done, other than cutting out the holes in it for the latches that hold this thing down, which I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. but I might figure out something. Then when I do, I'll show you guys how to do holes other than those plug cutters that I showed you in the last one, in the last video. Okay. It's pretty dang close now, guys. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the end of the brush here. I think it's called the hilt or whatever. And just going to kind of go around the perimeter of this thing, like so. Just to kind of give you a nice hard edge on where it needs to be trimmed. On this side, there's the panel line seam as well that I'll draw on once I get it extended where I have a more accurate way of doing so. Go. Get my longer ruler. Alright. That. Get this down to size. Cutting these nice long pieces like this becomes a little more of a chore, especially when they have this shape to it where you can't bend it that easily. So you kind of just gotta work with it. All right, put that back on again. See, it's a very laborious process to get this to fit. Heat, cut, trim. Heat, cut, press, trim. Heat some more. Cut it, press it, whatever. Just rinse and repeat constantly. And then you get done and you're like, it doesn't even look that it fits that great. Because it typically doesn't. So when you go to glue it on, I always put a lot of extra contact adhesive on these parts and really press them down really hard. That way they fit and you get all the shapes of the part into it. Alright, so now I got it kind of shaped again. Now that hard edge I put into it, it's kind of worked its way away now that I've trimmed it again and worked it. So I'm going to kind of just go around where the very faint outline of it still is. I'm going to trim this again. Okay. Getting better, getting closer. You know, by the way, masking tape sticks to lithoplate extremely well. And sometimes it's damn near impossible to get it off. Alright, now we got trimmed. Work it back around the edges again. This here is really about as good as you're going to get it to fit until you glue it down. The edges always kind of just hold themselves up. Then you get some glue on there and they pop right back down like you want them to. So that's one of the reasons why you want to get this thing detailed as quickly as possible, depending on how strong your glue is. That way you can mold it as quickly as possible, because the litho does want to pull up around the edges. And for instance, on my TA152 fuselage, I had to go through and just squirt some thin CA down in the seam and press it back on in order to get the seams back down, because it took about a week from the time I had it detailed until I molded it. Alright, hold that down. I'm going to finish trimming it up in shape. I have a big head and arms are in you God's way, but you'll get over it. Zoom out and scooch over some. Then just draw reference lines, making sure they don't intersect any other lines. That way I don't get them confused with a panel line. Or I'll draw an X over the line once I'm done with it, so I know don't make a panel line to there. There, X this one out so I know. Doesn't really matter right now because I've already done all the panels from there. And this particular one, it actually curves around it to meet that one. So I just kind of trace around the curve to make it look right. We'll cut it here. Put it this away. This is one of the few times where you can use the end of the tip of the scissors doing it, not have to worry about it leaving a kink in the metal. And there we have it, mostly complete. Now you're probably wondering, this corner should have a rounded part of it. How do you do the rounded part? Pretty simple, just get something round that looks about like the right size. In this case I'm going to use a cap off of the accelerator spray bottle. Put it on there. Leave it about the thickness of your pen away from the edges. Draw the circle. And cut. There we go. That's one complete wing bulge panel. You can see it even has, it's not flat, I swear. I didn't do any camera magic, it just worked the metal. And when you put it on there, it fits pretty dang good. When you get these flat panels like this that peel up, it's still really annealed because you didn't work it hardly ever or at all. You just kind of go in there and roll it around your finger to get it to fit. You can see it doesn't fit super tight. The only way you can get it fit super tight because the metal always springs back on you after you work it or bend it. So you actually have to, say if you're making a 90-degree bend, you actually have to bend it over like 91.3 degrees or 92 degrees. That way when it springs back, you get your 90 degrees. Since we can't work it any more than what the angle is we want, it's going to spring back to where it doesn't quite fit as tight. Since these were 3D printed, I could have gone through and made a press fit form of this by shelling this out to the thickness of the metal, making a female and a male part of it, and then just going kaput with a piece of annealed metal, and there you go. But the plastic on the 3D printer probably wouldn't hold up to that very well. Even for just one or two pieces, it wouldn't be strong enough, or it would take so long to print the parts that way longer to just do like what I showed you guys. So now that I've got this one done, that's working with lithoplate part 2. 1/4. No, it's just 2. So there's some other things like rivets and screws and wingtips, gluing it down, all that stuff. As I get further along, I'll keep doing the videos. If you guys want to see more of this, sorry, because I'm probably going to be done with it today. I'm going to do these 2. I'm going to do all the center section stuff. The only ones I won't do are the wingtips. So if you do want to see more of it, let me know and I'll show you doing the wingtip, because the wingtips are pretty fun, to put it mildly. So luckily on the TA, the wingtip is actually fairly shallow, so it won't be too bad to do, but it's still kind of a pain in the butt. So again, if you want more videos on working with compound curves and stuff, let me know and I'll do that for you. Anyways, y'all have a good one. See ya.